This is Vertical Farming Conversations. I'm Joel Coelho, Professor of Biosystems Engineering at the University of Arizona. Today, I'm joined by the CEO and a co-founder of AgroUrbana, which is based in Santiago, Chile, Cristian Sjogren. Cristian, welcome to the program.
Hi, Joel. Thank you.
Yes. Cristian, I happened to be in Santiago visiting a university about 3 weeks ago. And you were kind enough to accommodate me and my host at the university to give us a personalized tour of your brand new facility, which is close to the international airport in Santiago. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
You're welcome.
All right. So let's begin our conversation today, Cristian, by you telling us quickly, your recent educational background. I'm referring to your MBA in the United States, as well as your co-founder, Pablo Bonser, also doing his MBA in the United States. And then the two of you working in the renewable energy industry before you got into vertical farming enterprise or industry. So tell us quickly about it.
Yeah, so Pablo and myself, we met back in 2009. I was in UC Berkeley in my second year. Pablo was on his second year on his MBA in University Colorado Boulder. And at that time, we were both planning to get into the renewable energy industry, which by that time didn't exist really in Chile.
Chile.
And And at that time, we talked about starting a company together.
Right.
Pablo was focusing on wind. I was focusing on solar. And we thought about integrating the two power sources to get a 24/7 supply. But ultimately, each of us took different paths. I started a company. Pablo joined a multinational. We kept meeting for many years. And 8 years later, we both decided to now try again and get into vertical farming.
But yes, okay, this is great. But why vertical farming? From renewable energy into vertical farming. Tell us the logic behind this.
Yeah, so in 2017, I quit First Solar, which was the company that I acquired my startup. And then took a sabbatical and went with my family to the Bay Area to sort of reconnect with my network there in the energy industry and think about what will be my next step with Pablo, who was also he was talking to me about getting together into something new, and was there when I came across with vertical farming. One of the things that I was looking for, given that in Chile, we had a very fast transition into renewable energy, and in only 3 years, the energy prices, they dropped by 75%.
Wow.
Having abundant, sustainable and competitive energy was sort of giving the opportunity for industry, which are intensive in energy, right? To maybe close the gap to be competitive. And when I saw vertical farming, I saw, wow, I mean, how nice, I mean, and how cool would be to use electrons, right? To produce fresh food.
That's right. And it's worth mentioning that Chile has been doing leaps and bounds in terms of its progress in developing its renewable energy industry. And of course, Chile is blessed with different types of renewable energy. There's solar energy, particularly in the north, where the Atacama Desert is. And then in the south, in Punta Arenas area, there's a lot of wind and other forms of energy mixes as well. But all right. So then you got into vertical farming industry because you realized that it consumes significant amounts of energy. And of course, the availability of renewable energy in Chile would be very beneficial in terms of addressing really that big concern about vertical farming. And for the sake of the audience interest, I should note as well that you were the one who mentioned this to me, that Chile had a goal of meeting 20% of its energy demand 2025. but it met that demand back in 2020. So that's just to give an idea in terms of the significant progress the country has made. So now, tell us, because you and Pablo were working in the renewable energy industry before you jumped into the vertical farming industry, and that must have given you a lot of insights, a lot of lessons and knowledge. So what were the important knowledge or lessons that you took home from your experience in the renewable energy industry and that you're now applying in developing your vertical farming enterprise?
Sure. Well, the power market, it's a super competitive market. Basically, you have to first secure the procurement of the energy to then go after and build and finance your infrastructure, right? So to get those contracts, those power purchase agreement, you have to beat all the other competitors, which are, I mean, they're a pretty large number. So that makes you to always think about how you can be more efficient than your competitor, right? Coming from the infrastructure you're going to build, what's going to be your CapEx, what's going to be your cost of operation, your OpEx, and what would be the efficiency of the technology that you're going to utilize, right? So if you see vertical farming has also somehow those similarities. You're in the produce market, which is competitive. In particular in Chile, we are located in a Mediterranean climate area. So we have the best conditions for agriculture. And when we got into vertical farming, say, hey, we gotta build a business that can stand by its own without any subsidy and be able to compete with traditional agriculture in Mediterranean climate. So going with that mindset, CapEx efficiency, OpEx efficiency, yield, when you look at technology, first thing, you gotta be agnostic. I mean, if your goal is to be a producer, not a technology company, a producer, you gotta be agnostic and be open to use what technology makes more sense for your market, for the moment you're building your farm, or for the product you're gonna plan to grow, right? That's one thing. And secondly, it's this sort of continuous focus on unit economics, how you can improve yield, how you can reduce your kilowatt hours per pound produced, how you can optimize your labor per pound produced. So we have used sort of some similar approach from the renewable energy, which is, selling a commodity into vertical farming.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I'm just curious, Cristian, so you started AgroUrbana with Pablo, what year? 2017, 2018?
2018.
2018. And now 5 years later, we're here in 2023. And I know that during that period, you've done a lot of optimization and so on and so forth so that you can really maximize your yield per unit resource use. Can you give us an idea in terms of how much progress you've made on that? I mean, from the beginning, do you think that you were able to improve your yield by X%? And what would be that? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I would say from the first few months to where we are now, on a per square meter, I think we have increased more than 10 times the yield.
Okay, great. Yes. And of course, credit as well to Felix Rios, your production director or manager, who's been very helpful.
Our master grower.
Yes, master grower. Yes. And I had the privilege of meeting him as well. Okay, great. Now let's move to market access, because market is very crucial for the vertical farming industry. You explained to me that you have, of course, a diverse basket, if you will, of your customers. You've got your direct subscribers. You're selling at Walmart in Chile. You're selling at a big grocery store, Jumbo, also in Chile. And then you've got your purchase orders with two of the largest food service providers globally, actually. but of course, you're centered in Chile. One is Lagardère, which is a French company, and then an American company. What is that again? Sorry. Aramark, that's right, yes. So give us an idea, or our audience an idea, when you started out with AgroUrbana, were you already targeting to get into or to be able to access this larger global market, starting in Chile with these food service providers?
Yeah, the answer is no. I think that when we started AgroUrbana, we were sort of looking at the other companies, what they were doing, particularly in the US or in Japan or in the Middle East. And they were all focusing on retail. That was their main focus.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, makes sense because you sell smaller quantities at a higher price, but there is a lot of investment in marketing, right? To build the brand and create the awareness into customers. So when we started at AgroUrbana, we first went after restaurants, which are the easier, right? In terms of also quality requirements. Then we move into companies, they have stores and they sell prepared food, which they have a little bit higher requirements. And ultimately, we went after retail at the end, right? So by the time we were improving our process and becoming every time more sophisticated in our quality control, we were going after more sophisticated customers. So that was our path.
Right.
But ultimately, today, most of our volume goes to food service, which happens to be a little, I mean, different from most of the players, right? Which are focused on retail. Why we are there? I would say that requires less marketing effort, right? It's more like commercial. There is a sales process to educate them, to understand what are how we can solve their pain points. Pain points of the food service are related to the quality, which doesn't happen to always be consistent along the year, along the seasons. Waste, it's a major issue, right? In Chile, a third to 50% of what they buy on produce goes to the trash. And then also comes, you have to think that these are operations, right? We are an operation. So we also understand, we have, sort of a mindset of how their kitchen will work, and just learning on how much labor they use to wash and select leaves. And the space they use in kitchen, it also adds into the equation, right? So somehow we get every time more sophisticated and speaking their language and making a way more effective sales process.
Correct.
We make little effort and we get recurrent customers, which one customer buy probably a quantity which it's many times more than what a supermarket will be able to sell.
And Cristian, here there really is a a meeting of demands here by these food service providers, as you mentioned, and it's worth repeating. One is in the food quality, and of course, vertical farms ensure consistent quality year round of the produce, and then in terms of eliminating or minimizing food waste as well. Because again, you have a high quality product, and so a lot of the edible biomass really is usable and consistently when it's from vertical farming. And then the third one is, can you clarify a little bit about that, the third point?
It's the operational cost of having to select.
That's it.
And wash.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, because you can provide them with clean produce that does not require any washing. Is this correct? Yeah. So in that case, there is a real meeting of minds, if you will, and demand between these food service providers as well as vertical farms. So I think it's important to emphasize that. And then, of course, in addition to that, those sustainability benefits that vertical farming offers in terms of cleanliness, in terms of water use efficiency, and in your case, in terms of the use of renewable energy. So that is really attractive to these global food service providers. Now,
I would say, I would say that it's a plus.
It's a plus, yes,
what
that's right.
Their decision, right? First comes quality and solve the operational pain points, and then that's a plus that some of them they will like to market as well to their customers.
It's the icing on the cake, yes. So to the extent possible, can you describe how you approached these food service providers that you have purchase orders with currently? How did you make the connection?
Well, there are many ways to approach them, from starting from cold calls to introduction through people that are already working with us and they're happy with our product.
Yes.
I mean, this is, and depends on who you're approaching, because approaching a restaurant, it's more like building a relationship of trust than a multinational, right? Which is a little bit more executive, you know, on the way that you approach. But ultimately, I would say overall, it's about building trust, that they understand, they know you, they understand how your process works. They understand how you get the quality and how you can maintain that quality year round. And then you have different elements of people into the decision making process, right? Chefs, they will be the first to be your champions, right? They will get in love with your product because they see the quality and the consistency. So they are good elements to first engage with. And then it's all about the person that is in charge of purchase. They have to understand why they're paying a higher price than the traditional product. So it's about, I mean, knowing all the pieces of each of the players and somehow make them to understand our value proposition. It's not something that we get from one day to another, right? It takes time, in particular with more larger operations. But once you're in, it's way easier also to keep growing within those.
Yes, and talking about that, because now that you're in, do you intend to leverage this access that you have with this food service industry for AgroUrbana to really expand and even beyond Chile and even globally?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, in the food service, one is to keep growing through our current accounts, and then also add new accounts. That's a way that we will definitely go after food service. And there are many of these operations that they are based in Chile, that they also have presence in the other countries in the region. So we will definitely leverage those local relationships to sort of secure demand when we approach a new market. But also retail, Joel, it's a channel that we will keep growing, right? Because it's there where you develop the brand, but it takes longer time, right? And in particular, if in our case we have only like 2 products, which are lettuce and different mix of lettuce and basil, we don't have the same presence at the shelf like other players with different crops. So, but we're seeing there also a huge potential, but the speed of growth will be faster for now in food service, while we keep putting money and educating consumers around vertical farming, which is a new category right? And around the brand, and we also plan to deploy new other products in the future.
Okay. But you're definitely targeting or actually working to get greater access to both sectors. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now let's talk about technology because you mentioned that you're technology agnostic, and of course you provided a great reason for that. But at the same time, when I visited your facility, I could see that you have a really state-of-the-art vertical farming operation, and that you even have some proprietary technologies actually that you have developed. So, you know, given the typical technologies that are involved in operating a vertical farm, as well as managing data, and of course, there's lighting as well. Is there or are there additional technologies that you would like to develop and incorporate into your operation to make your enterprise even more productive?
Yeah, the answer is yes. I think that for now we have been at the point in which we develop hardware and software to get product and to the level of quality that we want and the level of yield that makes this business profitable. But going forward, it comes automation. Today we have a process which is 100% manual, right? So we'll start including automation with hardware that already exists. We are not planning to reinvent the wheel there, only just make some adaptations to make it work with our growth technology. But then comes all what you can get out of vision, right? Artificial vision, to be able to monitor large extension of crops, right? We are starting to doing some pilots with that technology. And then, of course, lights are semiconductors.
Right.
I come from an industry from semiconductors, so I see there also huge potential to lower energy load, right? Cost, and also cost of CapEx going forward. And we have in those areas where we are not developing any technology, which are most of the hardware, we have partnership with different technology companies with whom we have been collaborating and sort of getting to learn the technology and also giving them feedback about how to improve them. So it's sort of a win-win relationship in those areas where we don't see we will add any value into our core business, which is to sell produce.
Got it.
So we're good on integration, and we have Carmelo, which you also met.
Yes.
Remember that it's our director of orchestra. It's this platform of sensors, which it's super flexible, can connect and command the operation of all the hardware we have in the farm, and we have a team there with all the capabilities to be able to speak, for example, HVAC system into Carmelo, or Carmelo with dehumidifiers and all of that. So it's key to have a brain that allows you to get to the recipe you need for getting the level of yields to make.
Great. Yes. In the interest of time, Cristian, I'm going to ask you the two final questions I have. The first one is in Chile, and you've been around now for 5 years with AgroUrbana, and you've been selling your produce in Chile. To what degree has the produce market in Chile, which I think is now dominated by millennials? So to what extent now do they understand and appreciate vertical farming and all the attributes and value that vertical farming offers the produce industry?
Yeah, well, millennials today, they are roughly the 50% of the workforce globally. I think Chile, it's similar to that. And yeah, it's a generation that it's super informed, super educated, and when they buy something that to eat, they don't only want to know the nutrient content, but also who produced it, how it was produced, and what impact in the planet has that food that they are going to buy, right? So they are super they understand the technology and they like it, right? So there is no anything negative on buying vegetables from an operation like vertical farm. But overall, what we have learned is that what people buy, the market buys quality and convenience, right? Vegetables that they look great, they taste great, they are fresh, they don't have to wash. It's just, putting the leaves on your plate and eat them. That's what drives sales. That's the key. You want to be in this space, you have to be focused on quality from the very first day.
That's right. Yes. And of course, the proportion of the millennial consumers is going up over time as well.
We'll definitely see millennial transition from traditional way of agriculture into this more technological and more efficient in the use of resources.
And so my final question, and since you mentioned traditional agriculture, at this point in time, and with AgroUrbana 5 years into its operation, how would you compare the relative cost of produce, using vertical farming and using traditional farming? Do you think that the gap between them is being narrowed, and will there come a time when they will be in parity, and perhaps even one exceeding the other? Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I'm seeing definitely the same trend that happened in the renewable energy, in which renewable energy were way more expensive, but technology, scale, automation, getting access to more sophisticated financing pushed down the cost of energy coming from renewable energy, while on the other side, conventional sources were going up. So there will be a point in which both curves will cross.
They will intersect.
In AgroUrbana, we are working every day to accelerate the slope of the cost reduction.
Yes. And going forward, that's going to be true, not just in Chile and the neighboring countries that are really into renewable energy, but also globally. It seems that is a trend that would happen going forward. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and also climate change. Countries like Chile, Mediterranean climate area, I mean, the impacts of the climate change are way harder than in other geographies. So we have gone through a drought for 20 years. And today in the central area of Santiago, we lost like 1/3 of the surface, which was used to grow leafy greens. So we are living that pain, and we see here a vertical farming that will add, a solution. It's not going to be the entire solution, but will add to the solution to the problem that we are all facing.
That's right. Yes. Okay. I think that's a good way to end this conversation here. That you're right. I mean, vertical farming as an industry is not intending to replace conventional agriculture. But at the same time, given the disruptions in the climate and the degradation of the natural environment, and the increase in population, clearly, there is a need to be able to supplement the supply that conventional agriculture is able to render with another method of production that is more sustainable in the long run. And that would be vertical farming and indoor farming in general as well. So Cristian, thank you so much. And I want to congratulate you, and I want to thank AgroUrbana for being a point of light in terms of sustainability, both economically, as well as socially, as well as environmentally. And I think that's AgroUrbana has become a point of light of encouragement to the industry, particularly at this point in time when the industry is still, figuring out the best way forward to become really resilient and sustainable. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Joel, for sort of communicating what we are doing down here in Chile. I mean, we have been a little bit quiet and trying to do things right, learning on the way. And it's great that you came to our farm. It's a far place, but getting visibility through your interview, we really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And we'll be communicating and we'll be touching base. Thank you, Cristian. Bye for now.